This year's God of War was a belter. It was a great game that got great reviews and everyone seems to have been talking about it, so you'd think that the sequel would be interesting at least to some people. And if you're one of those people, well, this could be some encouraging news.
God of War launched on PS4 back in April, becoming the highest rated game of 2018 according to Metacritic. It sits in pole position with a score of 94 based on 117 reviews. Sony Santa Monica and creative director Corey Barlog crafted a game that critics almost universally praised for its art direction, combat, storytelling and overall cinematic feel. It sold like hotcakes as well, becoming the fastest selling entry in the God of War franchise, shifting 3 million copies in just 3 days. The game sold over 5 million copies in its first month, with 2.1 million people buying the game digitally.
In the week of its release, Corey Barlog was doing the rounds in the media with interviews left, right and centre. During that press burst, he revealed that he has another 5 games mapped out in his head. God of War was a big project and took 5 years to put together, but Barlog has also said he doesn't expect the next games in this series to take that long to produce. A big part of the development of God of War 2018 was starting from scratch, building up the engine, and there was a lot of stress involved. Barlog told Kotaku everything really needed to be redone because we had just torn the engine apart in so many different ways. Things should at least be a bit quicker and easier for the dev team with the next God of War game.
Which brings us to some interesting info that has just emerged this week. God of War studio Sony Santa Monica has posted a new job listing on its official site, which sounds an awful lot like work for a new God of War game, or at least a new God of War something. The studio is looking for an experienced senior character concept artist to create high quality characters, gods, creatures and props. Applicants must, quote, be able to create character designs that are both visually strong while also supporting the gameplay and narrative needs. Now this has multiple gaming news outlets speculating about what it could be. Some are pointing to it being some God of War DLC or expansion content, while others, like PlayStation Lifestyle, seem pretty convinced that it's, quote, more likely than not a God of War sequel.
Whatever it is, there are a few things we do know for sure about where the God of War series would go next. Back before God of War released earlier this year, Sony Santa Monica community head Aaron Kaufman confirmed that additional installments in the franchise would stick to Norse mythology. Kaufman also revealed that since the series has essentially been rebooted, gamers won't need to play the prior installments of the series to know what's going on. And if we have a look at what actually happens in the game itself, spoilers for anyone who's still yet to finish God of War, alright, you gone? It looks like whatever comes next for Kratos and Atreus, it'll be Thor, the god of thunder, standing in their way. That was revealed in a post-credit scene at the end of the game. It also looks like Freya, the mother of Baldur, that one witch what lived under a turtle, who played a big role in God of War 2018, will be a central antagonist. It also looks an awful lot like the series will be retelling the events of Ragnarok, the end of all things as told by Norse mythology.
Another interesting tidbit we've had comes from environmental artist Nate Stevens, who says the next God of War would have to have bigger fights than this year's version, given Kratos would be going head to head with Odin and Thor. So with all of this in view, the next God of War seems much more like a matter of not if, but when. So this is all stemmed from a job posting on the Sony Santa Monica website, which is just for an environmental artist, the lead environmental artist, who would be tasked with creating creatures, mythology, gods. All the language there is very God of War like.
Gods, yeah.
It's Sony Santa Monica. You know, come on. The question is basically, is it going to be some expansion content or DLC, or is it going to be just a full-on new game that they're working on?
It seems like if it was DLC, it'd be quite late starting. Like take Horizon Zero Dawn, that came out in like March, didn't it? And then in November they released Frozen Wilds, and that was like well later. Yeah. And if they're just hiring now, then that means
for a concept artist, exactly, which is like the early stages.
So DLC will be coming much later. So unless it was like a 1-year anniversary DLC, it's probably going to be starting work on because basically God of War 2 is going to be God of War Norse Mythology Part 2. Well, it's probably going to have the same engine, same, we know it's going to have like, a lot of the same backdrops and stuff. So
here's what I think, right? Here's a plot twist. I actually think it could be for God of War 3 or 6, depending on how you're counting the series. Yeah. Because if it's a concept artist, it's very early stages. I know God of War's just come out, but I imagine they would have had the concept art stuff for God of War 2 would have been already in the works when God of War 1 was being developed. I know it's not God of War 1, but you know what I'm saying. When that was being developed, because of the length and the kind of cycles of games development, I think it could even be like a third installment. He's already said he's got 5 games in his head to map out, and they're working on it as a trilogy. The way, if anyone who's played through God of War 2018, you can see that they just open up threads. They open up story threads, left, right, and centre, and they just and they're just building this thing as a installment in a like a Marvel movie or something. It's just not.
I loved the game. I thought it was amazing, and people give it the universal praise it fully deserves. But the one criticism I have of it was it did feel like it was holding back.
Yeah.
It didn't feel like it was a perfect standalone experience. It felt a little bit like, make sure to tune in next time, because if you're into like Norse mythology, all the key players aren't there. Like there's no fucking Odin.
They're mentioned, aren't they? They're like giving lip service.
Yeah,
just like,
exactly. And you're fighting all these. You know what I mean? They're
like
holding.
Baldur's the big one in it, and Baldur's not the big one in anything apart from like
Baldur's Gate, but he doesn't even make an appearance in that type bastard. So I think that when it comes to like God of War 1, 2, and 3, it had the greatest hits. You were punching Zeus in chops.
Exactly.
You had everyone.
That's what it said on the box, I think. You punch Zeus in the fucking chops.
Roundhouse kick Hades, but they were holding back with this one, and I feel like it's because they ultimately want to make another trilogy. I'm well in for it. Well except for it. That theory you had though could be very weighty.
Everything we've told you there, it's not just Corey Barlog, there's the other people, the senior environmental artists and the community managers there saying, well, it is going to be, the Norse mythology is definitely going to be what the series is doing for the next couple of games at least.
Yeah.
And if there's 5 games mapped out in Corey Barlog's head, then is that a couple of Norse games and then going somewhere else and doing something else with it. So who knows? The one thing we do know for definite though, there's going to be another God of War game pretty soon, probably.
So God of War was actually pretty damn good, I think, and I'm really looking forward to the second one. Do you think that this is signs that the second one's coming, or do you believe Mike? Are they already looking like 3 or 4 games down the line? Remember to like the video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new around here. There's some more content on the screen just there. It's also linked to Patreon if you want to support the channel. See you next time.